take a minute just in case. I think we're safe to go, Paul.
Oh, fantastic. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Paul Norwood. I am a guide here with Experience First in LA, along with my fellow intrepid and super guide with the mask on. That masked man you see is Chris Westbrook, and our moderator is Bobby Traversa. And we are ready to go with a little virtual tour in Silver Lake, in the neighborhood of Silver Lake in LA, in honor of Pride this year, which would have been this weekend here in Los Angeles. And we are in Silver Lake because Silver Lake is the site of two extraordinarily important events that took place in that neighborhood early in the gay rights era, before Stonewall in New York. And we're going to talk about those things. We're going to show them to you. As you can see, the beautiful streets of Silver Lake right now. We miss everybody coming to LA. We miss doing our tours of the Hollywood sign and Griffith Park and downtown LA. We want everybody to come back. A lot of the old timers here in LA say, you wouldn't believe what LA used to be like, where you could get anywhere in 20 minutes and the air was clean. Well, now we've achieved that with COVID, but we really want the people to come back, even if it means that we have to give up some of the nice things that have been part of this experience. Just want to refer to the fact that normally this Sunday would have been the Gay Pride Parade in West Hollywood. It would have been a big one. It would have been the 50th anniversary of the first Gay Pride Parade, which took place on June 28, 1970, just after Stonewall. And it's been on for years. And of course, because of the virus, plans had to be changed, and they decided to go to a virtual parade this year. However, everything else changed with the murder of Mr. Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests that have been going on. And so Christopher Street West, which was running the Gay Pride Parade, was going to organize a parade in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter organization. And signals got crossed, some politics happened, and basically there will be a parade. Christopher Street West is in full solidarity to what's going to happen on Sunday, a parade from Hollywood to West Hollywood by All Black Lives Matter in honor of Marsha P. Johnson, who was a great activist and pioneer of the gay rights movement in New York, was one of the great African-American drag queens that protested at Stonewall, was there that night, and became an icon of the gay rights movement. So very fittingly, she is going to be honored this year as in this parade, and we hope everybody's out there in support. Our hearts are with them, our minds are with them, and all best wishes for everybody involved, and hope it's a great thing. So that's where we are this year. So in honor of that, what we're doing today is just a little history about the gay rights movement. We're in the neighborhood of Silver Lake, which is about 5 miles from downtown LA. It has always been a kind of bohemian neighborhood from the very beginning. In the 1940s, it was called the Red Hills because there were so many leftists and communists who lived there, one of whom we will be talking about. And later on, of course, it became a gay neighborhood when West Hollywood became incorporated in 1984. Before that, Silver Lake had always had a gay presence. And Chris will be telling you more about that later on. Where we're starting today is at the corner of Sunset Boulevard and Sanborn near Hyperion in Silver Lake. And what we're looking at right now is the Black Cat. The Black Cat, and this is the original building, the Black Cat Tavern, became a bar in the 1960s. Previously, it had been a Safeway grocery store, believe it or not. In 1960s, it was a working class bar frequented by a gay crowd. And the night of New Year's Eve, December 31st, 1966, 12 plainclothes policemen planted themselves within the bar There was a costume contest at New Faces, which was a bar directly across Sanborn Street, which, and there you can see right there the historical cultural monument that was dedicated in 2008. A lot of people on the East Coast don't think LA has either history or culture, but there's absolute proof there in right up against the building. It's a protected building because of what happened here on February 11th, 1967.
So that's over 2 years before Stonewall.
2.5 years before Stonewall.
Oh my goodness. People don't know that.
Well, the difference for a couple of reasons. One, it wasn't a riot in the sense that Stonewall was a riot, okay? There was not a lot of resistance immediately. Basically what had happened was there was a costume event across the street at the New Faces bar. When the people poured out of there, when that was over at 11 p.m., over the Black Cat to toast New Year's. And there was a trio of black ladies who were singing Old Lang Syne. And at midnight, the balloons dropped, and then the police started, and there was of course, New Year's kiss among many of the patrons, and the undercover police called in their backups who were parked in the lot outside. Police flooded the place and started beating everybody up with their billy clubs, and they broke the glass, they dragged people out, they beat everybody up. It was general mayhem. They beat up about 16 people that night at the Black Cat. They arrested several, forced them to lie down on the sidewalk in the broken glass until the bands came to take them to jail. A bunch of people tried to run across the street to New Faces, and the police chased them down, knocked down the woman owner of the New Faces bar, and beat her 2 bartenders unconscious. One of them had a ruptured spleen, was in critical condition for several days, and when he recovered, they charged him with felony assault on a police officer. So ultimately, from this event, 6 men were charged with lewd conduct, and that was measured by the fact that they had kissed another person for up to 10 seconds, which constituted lewd conduct in those days. And the jury found them all guilty. They actually charged only 6 of those people with that, and they found them all guilty. But the important thing about that is 11 days later, February 11th, there was an organization called Pride, Pride, and it was basically one of the first gay organizations to organize a protest. They went out there with their pickets, and they organized this because in those days they didn't have cell phones or any way to get the word around. So they passed out leaflets, and they had phone trees. So they would call a friend, and they would call 10 friends, and that person would call 10 friends. And eventually they had 200 or 300 people show up on February 11th for this protest. And it was a big deal. It was, but it basically was not, it was, there was a tiny little piece in the Los Angeles Herald Examiner about it. I don't think the LA Times covered it at all. And it basically was a forgotten event, except that legally it had great ramifications because of the 6 men charged, 2 of them were going to be made sex offenders for the rest of their lives for kissing another man for 10 seconds. And that went all the way to the Supreme Court. And on the basis of discrimination against a homosexual against equal protection under the law, under the 14th Amendment. And that was the first time that that case was ever made. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court refused to hear the case, and it did not happen until much later. But this was the very beginning of that event.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
It's
10
amazing.
seconds. 10 seconds. And
10 seconds is all that you need to do.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a pretty amazing. Night, and that was really considered to be the first real pushback from police harassment of gay people in the United States. And again, we're saying 2.5 years before Stonewall happened.
Fantastic. Well, we have a couple slides from that night, right?
Right.
Cool. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna put those up here. Um,
There's a picture of the protest. And these people were, they were pretty courageous at that time, because their pictures taken, they could be fired from their jobs. They could be subject to all kinds of, kicked out of their apartments, whatever, and they got out there and did it. So it was a pretty amazing thing.
wow, that's insane. And is the bar still open today? Is the Black Cat still open?
Most recently, it was open as a restaurant and a bar, mixed crowd. It's not a gay bar anymore. It's been several things since this event in the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
But it was, Chris, you've been there. Is Chris with us?
I think Chris is moving on to his next location.
He's moving on to the next location. Okay. All right. Yeah, it is a bar now, and hopefully it will reopen soon. I noticed a sign on the building the other day that the building is for sale. So I don't know what that means, but it is a cultural historical landmark for LA. So
Right.
they can't tear it down. So it's going to be there. Okay.
Awesome. And so, speaking of bar restaurants, you had said that there was another
Yes.
event that had happened in a different kind of store.
Yes. Yes. Cooper's Donuts Uprising, as it was called, in spring of 1959. So we're talking almost a decade earlier than the Black Cat. In the early 1900s, and there you got a picture of Cooper's Donuts, which was down on Main Street, downtown Los Angeles. In the early 1900s, the center of gay life in downtown was, in LA, was downtown around Pershing Square. That was the place where most of the gay cruising took place. And there were about 4 or 5 gay bars right around Pershing Square that were very glamorous and busy in the 1930s and 40s. But by the 1950s, a lot of that area started to get a little shabby. And there were a couple of bars one named the Waldorf and one called Harold's, that had lost a little bit of their 1930s glamour and were basically hangouts for, well, not to put too fine a point on it, hustlers and people, drag queens and the like. And that's pretty much where, and they used to come out of the bars when the bars would close and go to Cooper's Donuts because it was open 24 hours a day. Of course, the police loved to harass them, particularly the transgendered people. They could be arrested for almost no pretense whatsoever, especially for what they called masquerading as a woman. This was illegal. So down at the, in these bars around the downtown, these people would basically wear capri pants and men's shirts so that they would escape the charge of masquerading as women. But one night in the spring of 1959, in May, the police decided to raid Cooper's Donuts, go in there and start asking everybody for ID. And if their ID didn't conform to the gender that they were dressed as, they were arrested. And people started to resist. They started throwing donuts and paper cups and paper plates and trash at the police. And the police backed off. They did not arrest anybody. They retreated to their car. They called for backup. They closed down Main Street, cordoned off Main Street entirely, and it was closed all the next day. And that actually is purported to be the first, quote, gay riot, gay rights riot in the history of the United States. That took place in spring of 1959. But again, it was unreported, it was unrecorded. So except for the people who were there, didn't know about it. There's a famous gay author named John Recchi who wrote a seminal book called City of Night, an autobiographical novel. And he was there that night and he was almost arrested. And he recorded this event in City of Night. So it did get recorded there many, many years later. But it was something that people didn't talk about for many, 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 many years.
I want to see that movie. I mean, it's so crazy because everything is through the lens of Stonewall, and it's kind of a blurry lens because people don't even realize that with Stonewall, yeah, it was a lot of like buttoned up, preppy white gay dudes inside, but it was really Marsha P. Johnson. It was a lot of these trans women and drag queens of color that started it. And it wasn't even New York first, like you're saying, 10 years beforehand, before they were throwing bricks through Stonewall, they were throwing donuts at the cops.
Yes.
Some filmmaker needs to tell that story because it's incredibly important.
It's amazing. And it happened right here in LA, which of course, being gay in LA was always a somewhat weird thing to be in those days because of the film industry. It was very attractive to a lot of homosexuals to come and work in the film industry, which you could do as long as you didn't want to be a big star. You could. So there was a lot of and before the code came in 1930s, anything pretty much went on in Hollywood in the early days. You know, in the 1920s, of course, two of the biggest silent film stars, Billy Haynes and Raymond Navarro, were gay men. And Billy Haynes was one of the top 5 box office draws from 1928 to 1932 until Mr. Mayer called him into the office and said, you got to give up your boyfriend and get married, or you got to give up your career. And he gave up his career. And he and his boyfriend were together for 47 years, and he became a very, very famous interior designer. So I see we're back with, oh my God, Chris is over at the Esther Steps.
Yes, hello.
Talk to us, Chris.
So I just wanted to chime in real quick to Paul to answer your question. I have been to the Black Cat, and I have been there on New Year's, and it's a great bar. I've been there around Christmas as well. Me and my friends ordered way too much cheese, and we dubbed it Cheesemas. So it was a great time, and I recommend everyone go.
Fantastic.
But now we are over here in Silver Lake, really in the hills. You might hear me huffing and puffing a little bit as we go up this massive set of stairs. This is called Esther's Steps. Esther was a woman that lived over here in Silver Lake. She built one of the first houses along Lucille, the street behind me. And she lived into her 90s and would walk stairs like this every day, apparently. So I'm huffing and puffing in my 20s, but Esther could have kicked my butt all the way up into her 90s, which I find really impressive. And this is just one of over 400 plus hidden staircases around Los Angeles. They were built to connect people to the trolley cars that we used to have in the city. Because people don't think we have history, culture, or transportation. And we don't have transportation anymore, but you know, we used to.
And one thing we do have is a lot of hills.
Woo! And you will see some street signs right here. Technically, these stairs are actual public thoroughfares. They are streets. And that's the first chunk right there. And there's a view right behind us.
What? There's no smog.
I know, it's kind of incredible.
Oh, it's amazing, and enjoy it while we can.
So I'm going to head up a couple more right here.
Of course, one of
so
the
I
most
live
famous,
in Silver Lake.
Yeah, one of the most famous staircases in Silver Lake also is what's known as the Music Box Steps, which is where Laurel and Hardy filmed the Music Box. The only film that they won an Academy Award for is Best Comedy Short in 1932. Very famous scene where they're pushing a piano up a long staircase just like this. And that staircase, of course, exists right there in Silver Lake as well. Silver Lake was really, and Edendale, the adjacent neighborhood, was where the silent film industry got started in LA, long before Hollywood. And Walt Disney had his studios in Silver Lake at the corner of Hyperion and Silver Lake Boulevard, which is now, that's where Disney Studios started. That's where Mickey Mouse was born.
And Snow White, their Academy Award-winning film.
Yes.
All right.
Beautiful and secluded these neighborhoods are, and we're only 5 miles from downtown.
Yeah, it's a really stunning neighborhood. So you can see some beautiful mountains off in the distance. Can't see it just yet, but over the top of that house, now you can see it. There's the Griffith Observatory, one of our most famous attractions, as well as the Hollywood sign, though that might be a little difficult to see.
A little difficult to see today.
So Experience First has a plan for this tour right here. I know it's all digital, all video today, but in the future, we would like to make this an actual walking tour and get people out here walking the stairs, panting just like me. One big pant.
Great exercise.
It's very good. Good cardio.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we'll be able to turn this into a Pride tour every single June, and we'll be able to donate the proceeds to charities that specialize in LGBTQ activities and organizations. So we hope that this seems interesting to people. If you want to get out, check out the hills, check out Experience First. You can also check out my Instagram. It's called CLA in a Day. And I do stair tours like this in Silver Lake. They're really fun, but they are a good workout.
And we are today we are encouraging people to contribute to Lambda Legal Defense Fund, which does free litigation and education for gay rights and for transgendered rights as well. And they are accepting donations during Pride, matching every donation dollar for dollar. So I think we'll have a link for that on our website. I expect, I hope.
We will. It'll be there.
Okay, good.
All right, so I am heading back down the stairs. I'm gonna head back to the vehicle. Paul is gonna fill everyone in on some more incredible LA history. And when you see me again, I will be at another staircase, regretting this job already. I will be at another staircase that I have to run up that has some great history to it, especially as it pertains to Pride Month. So I will see everyone soon.
Bye.
Bye, Chris. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See ya.
We'll see you soon. Chris is on his way to another set of stairs, which is known as the Mattachine Steps, only recently named that in 2011, for an event that took place next to those stairs in the house of a gentleman named Harry Hay. Harry Hay was a very early gay rights pioneer. He grew up in England in 1912 and came to, there he is, young Harry Hay. His parents moved to Brazil, to Chile, and then they came to Los Angeles. His father was in the oil or mining industry, and they came to Los Angeles. Harry Hay grew up here in LA, and he went to Stanford briefly and became interested in Marxist ideology and left-wing causes. He became an activist. And he became an actor. He did a lot of extra work. He was a stunt man on horses, and he also did some screenwriting. And he was doing a play. He met a fellow actor named Will Geer. Will Geer, you may remember from a show called The Waltons. At least people of my vintage remember The Waltons. Will Geer played Grandpa Walton on that series and was a very famous and beloved character actor. Will Geer and Harry Hay got involved in a relationship, and Will Geer became his mentor, and he took him up to San Francisco for a great event up there, a labor organizing event, got him interested in labor organizing, left-wing causes, and actually got him into the Communist Party. They both joined the Communist Party. Will Geer was eventually blacklisted, and Harry Hay became a member of the Communist Party. In 1950, living in LA, he started the first gay rights organization called the Mattachine Society. And that's where Chris is on his way to right now. That happened in 1950. And there's a picture right there, probably, I believe, taken in Harry Hay's house in Silver Lake. Harry Hay is the gentleman looking at us on the upper left-hand corner. And these are fellow friends of his who started this society. Originally, it was a kind of a secret society. It was originally called the Society of Bachelors, or Bachelors Anonymous, because you had to be very careful about exposing yourself as a gay man in 1950 LA in terms of employment and anything that could come back at you. And so it was kind of created as a cross between a rights organization and kind of a secret Freemason type of organization, where there were certain passwords and there was a pretty tight control over membership. But it became the very, very first organized gay rights organization in the United States, and was founded in 1950. They took the name Mattachine Society in 1951 because that referred to a group of masqueraders in the Middle Ages in France who used to put on masks and be able to go around the countryside and entertain and speak truth to power because they weren't identified. So they thought that was a nice idea for their organization, and that's where they started, right there. I don't know, where is Chris? He's still on his way.
I think he's still on his way.
It'll take me a couple minutes to get over there, but I am on the way.
Okay, good. So basically, Harry Hayes started this organization in 1950. It became known as the Mattachine Society in 1951. By 1953, new leadership started to come in. Harry Hay and the original founders were pushed out because of their communist ties. So we're going into the 1950s now, and what's going on in this country? McCarthy, the rooting out of the communists in the government, the Un-American Activities Committee investigations, the blacklist. And so Harry Hay, because of his communist associations, stepped down from the Mattachine Society. It declined. It had a membership of 5,000 people at its peak in 1953. And then it kind of splintered off and became less important in LA, more important in branches all around the country, in Washington, New York, other cities. But it was a very important, it was the beginning of the gay rights movement right there at Harry Hayes' house in 1950.
That's amazing. Yeah, and that's interesting that you bring up that he kind of got pushed out, because that's kind of what happened with Larry Kramer in the gay men's health crisis.
Exactly.
He founded this organization in his living room. Like, if you've ever seen The Normal Heart, it's basically about all of that. But then he was such a political activist that the group that he founded said, we need you to step aside.
That is a perfect parallel, because the new people who came in were much more conservative, and they didn't want these left-wing communist people, agitators, involved. They wanted it to be a much more conservative, let's take it slow, let's try to assimilate kind of thing. Right. And Harry Hay didn't want to have anything to do with that. Harry Hay had actually gotten married because he was pressured by the communists to do that. The communists did not approve of gay men.
Right.
And he had a problem because even though he was committed to the party was not committed to him, because they considered homosexuality to be a sign of bourgeois decadence. And so he was not welcomed either in the Communist Party or among the gay activists that were coming up into the movement at that time. And so he was kind of left out. He came back to activism in the 1970s, but
sure.
That was a different time.
That's, again, to put parallels, and I hesitate bringing it up because the three of us are very Caucasian people, but, with everything going on with George Floyd into Pride, I know that a lot of my gay friends of color, especially that aren't, cis men, cis women, especially in the transgender spectrum, are having a hard time because they are not finding, and they've always experienced, the gay community only accepts them to a point, and then the Black community only accepts them to a point, and they're kind of in this weird world. And to be in Pride season when the focus is on a movement that really means a lot to them, but it's on a cisgendered straight man, it's difficult. I mean, I can't weigh in how difficult that is, but hearing that as someone who was part of the Communist Party but didn't accept him for who he was, and then also trying to be a gay activist, it's tough when you check several boxes. It's messy. It's never completely easy. It gets sloppy. It really does.
Yeah. One of the interesting things that came out of that, though, a couple of other interesting things, that the Mattachine Society in 1953 had a newsletter, and it was called The Advocate, and that became the first gay publication in the United States. Came out of that group of guys we just saw at Harry Hayes' house, the Mattachine Society. Later on, there was, so there's just an amazing first here. Also, the very first gay publication in the United States was actually called One. And that was sold, what year was that? That was even earlier. 1953 was the first pro-gay magazine, One, that was sold on the streets of LA for 25 cents. The post office refused to deliver it because they said it was obscene. And litigation went to the Supreme Court. And in 1958, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of that magazine on First Amendment grounds. So that, again, was another landmark gay rights event that took place out of LA.
It's important to pinpoint this stuff because cities like New York and San Francisco get all the credit. But yeah, it's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
There's Chris.
I'm back.
You're back. There we are.
And I am over here on the complete other side of Silver Lake now. That's why it took me a few minutes to drive over here. But here are the Mattachine Steps. And this is the hill where Henry Hay lived and where they formed the Mattachine Society.
And you can see the sign under it says caution.
And also,
caution
beware coyotes.
Yes, you know, we have been, we've been getting out every night at 8 o'clock in our various neighborhoods here to cheer on our healthcare workers and doctors who are taking care of everybody during the COVID crisis. And in my neighborhood, which is another hillside neighborhood not very far from Silver Lake, often the coyotes join in while we're screaming and yelling. It's very funny. They really get into it. But yeah, you have to watch out because the coyotes are all over these neighborhoods.
Oh, wow.
And Chris is going up the steps right now. And Harry Hay's house is right at the top of the steps. There you see a couple of people coming down, getting out of the way.
Luckily, this is a smaller space.
There you go. Chris is doing all the work, all the legwork today.
We might have frozen though.
But Harry Hay lived in that house for many, many years. And became a leader of the Gay Liberation Front and an organization called the Radical Fairies.
Ah, I have a picture of that too.
As you can see, not much of a view of the homes up here. It's a little Beverly Hills-esque.
Yeah, it's very hard to see his house because it's really blocked by a lot of hedges and stuff. But it's still standing. And
I think you guys will all love the view that we get from up here.
And there's Silver Lake.
Oh, wow.
Chris, tell us a little bit about that neighborhood and Silver Lake and all of that.
All right. So, like Paul was saying earlier, it's a very eclectic sort of bohemian place. But if we were to go back in a time machine to the late 1800s, 1890s or so, take all those houses away. Just barren landscape over there. There's pretty much no development over here until the reservoir is built down below us. That was done in the 19-teens. William Mulholland, a notorious LA figure, was the man in charge of having this reservoir put in here. But another low-level or lower-level LA DWP, Department of Water and Power employee, he was also working on this, and his name was Herman Silver. So a lot of people think Silver Lake gets its name from the reflection on the water, but it does not. It is named after Herman Silver himself. And it's really beautiful. You can see giant hills over there. It was really desirable for silent film stars to live here in the 1930s. It's just absolutely stunning. And it's full of incredible architecture. So if you like architecture, this is a great neighborhood. A little hard to tell, but there's a rounded roof house all the way on the other side over there. That's John Lautner's Silvertop home. John Lautner was a student of Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank Lloyd Wright's grandson, Eric Lloyd Wright, has a house right down here at the bottom of the hill that if I was a millionaire, I would buy right now. And so if you like any of that stuff, this is an incredible neighborhood full of mid-century modern architecture. And the real pioneer of mid-century modern architecture, Richard Neutra, he lived right over there, one street over. And now the street is named after him, Neutra Place. It's a cool area. I really recommend anyone come over and check it out. The reservoir is beautiful to walk around, and Sunset Boulevard is full of amazing shops and restaurants. So like I was saying earlier, I do a couple tours of the stairs over here in Silver Lake. It's really great. One of them focuses explicitly on painted staircases, which have beautiful murals on them. They're great for Instagram and great for a workout, and amazing views too.
Yeah, in the 50s and 60s, Silver Lake was a largely Latino neighborhood with workers who were very busy in the factories in downtown LA. But when all of that started to change in the 1970s and a lot of manufacturing was going over to China, the neighborhood changed quite a bit and went into a bit of decline for a while. That's when it was pretty much a bohemian and gay center. In the 2000 census, actually, 52.6 of people responding to the census in Silver Lake said they were never married men, and 38.6 were never married women, which was one of the highest percentages of that in the United States. But you wouldn't, people think of West Hollywood as the gay center of Los Angeles, but West Hollywood didn't come into existence until the 1980s. So this is really
and
where
Silver Lake
yes.
has so many great gay-owned businesses and other places you can go check out, like Eagle LA. 33 Taps is a sports bar, but it is gay-owned as well, and they have a lot of fun things like a drag night and some fun trivia nights there too. So it's such a fun neighborhood.
And
with so
a lot
many,
of great new restaurants, and it's just always getting better and better. Ironically, one of the residents of Silver Lake back in the day was Mr. Parker, who was the police chief who militarized the LAPD. He actually lived in Silver Lake for a while. But, there are a lot of people in the industry who live there. Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a house there, Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams.
Jason Sudeikis lives right around the corner.
Yeah, and
Chris Pine from Star Trek goes to the same taco place I go to, which is fun.
Exactly. So there's a lot of people love funky Silver Lake. And it's not as cheap and affordable as it used to be, but it's still a beautiful neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's coming down to, of course, he's right down at the base, Silver Lake Boulevard. And of course, there is a jogging path all the way around the lake, which is about 3.5 miles long, which I love to do. And there's a great dog park there. Wonderful place to live.
Yeah, it's a good place to find the celebrities, the dog park.
Exactly. Yep.
You can see the plants in Silver Lake are beautiful and blooming. We've got the jacaranda trees going. It's the last few weeks of those. So I think me and Paul have given you just a small slice of some of the LGBTQ history in Silver Lake and a little bit of LA, including downtown. But there are more stories. There are stories like Jules Catch One, an amazing African-American gay bar that was the first African-American disco in the country. And people from all over the world used to go there. They actually called their Saturday night dances the International Music Festival, because everyone there pretty much had a passport from another country. So there's just so much to know about the city and so much cool stuff.
Jules Catch One, opened in 1973, and was just one of the most important gay discos in the country, and of course it was a great haven for the Black community, the gay and lesbian Black community here in LA, which had, we're not always welcomed in the bars in West Hollywood, sad to say. And there was Jules Catch One was an amazing place to go, welcomed everybody, and of course Madonna performed there. Lots of famous people used to hang out there. It was an incredible place. And she, of course, became one of the grand marshals of the Gay Pride Parade back in 2016. We've had a lot of famous people be grand marshals of our parade. Harvey Milk in 1978, just before he was assassinated, was the grand marshal in West Hollywood. And in 2017, Alexei Romanov, who was a Ukrainian activist who was there at the Black Cat the night of the uprising there, was grand marshal of the Gay Pride Parade. There are two great films, by the way. There's one called Jewel Catch One on Netflix, which has a lot of history about that bar and about the Black gay community in LA. It's an incredible film. And also Circus of Books, which is about the gay bookstore that was started in Silver Lake across the street from the Black Cat, and was bought in 1982 by a couple, Barry and Karen Mason. And they just bought it as a business. They are now an elderly Jewish couple, and their daughter just made this documentary about the fact that they owned the biggest gay bookstore in the country, the biggest distributor of gay material in the US for decades. It's a very interesting movie, and it's not just for gay people, because it's got a lot of amazing family history. It's a great family story, and 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I recommend everybody to see that film too. It's got a lot of great background information about that era.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard really great things, and there's a lot of celebrity cameos in it as well, right?
Yeah, and Larry Flint is interviewed a lot because he was seminal in their being able to get the bookstore. They had actually worked for him distributing Hustler, and they were just doing it to make a living. It was nothing, and he got them involved. So it became, an important freedom of information kind of movement for
That's
them
awesome.
to own that. Yeah.
I'm back. My phone decided to update right in the middle of that. Very convenient.
Of course it did.
Technology.
So I don't know. Anybody, any questions about anything? Anything that we've touched on?
No, I think it's great. I'll be the voice of someone who lived in LA for a long time, and I said this to you both before. I know none of this, and I lived pretty close to Silver Lake. So for anyone watching who might actually be from Southern California or LA, you should take a tour with Experience first, because there's so much that you can learn. I think it's easy to live in a place and really just get used to a routine and ignore some of the fantastic history around. Like Chris has mentioned, and I think Paul, you did as well, LA is known as like having no history, no culture, no anything. And that's a load of crap. So it's an extremely historic city, and there are beautiful buildings everywhere that I'm sure the two of you would be glad to point out to people if they were to take one of your tours. So
absolutely, we'd
really
love
cool
to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of gay history. I mean, you guys have touched on a small piece of it, but even West Hollywood has so much that if you've never been down there, historic bars, historic people, performers, things like that, I bet.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other history, you know.
We could do another hour on West Hollywood easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, are there any other last minute recommendations you guys want to give anybody of like places to check out, if they do happen to be in the city during Pride or on a future Pride? Like, you guys have given some really awesome recommendations so far. So
yeah, Paul, you have any recommendations?
Well, I think I think this weekend, I think we just need to have all of our thoughts and support going to All Black Lives Matter and what they're doing. Marching from Hollywood down to the first gay pride parade in 1970 started on Hollywood Boulevard before West Hollywood was a thing. Now, so history is coming full circle, and the people who are protesting and who are being most aggrieved and harassed by law enforcement today are out on the streets this Sunday, fighting their fight, which is our fight. We're all in this together, and we need to support them, and it's great that they're starting in Hollywood and going all the way down La Brea to Sunset and down to West Hollywood to end there. So it just hopefully brings us all together at this weekend where we're really mindful of the importance of the rights of all human beings to be treated with dignity and respect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and hopefully a year from now, we live in a much more just world and people can get back to going out and supporting businesses, and we can get back to hopefully some sense of normalcy. And when that time does come back around, I really recommend people go check out Akbar. Akbar is a really great gay bar over here on the east side near Silver Lake and Los Feliz. A lot of reviews will describe it as the antithesis to anything WeHo, so it's much more calm. It's like a neighborhood dive bar. It's been there for just about 25 years now. It's a really great little spot. And of course, the Abbey is about as famous as it gets for gay bars here in Los Angeles. If you want to go and have a crazy night out, see some dancing, do some dancing, that is a great place to go. It is really, really fun over there.
When I moved to LA in the late 80s, early 90s, the Abbey was a coffee shop. I mean, you go to a counter and you'd order a dessert and a coffee and you'd sit down on the patio, and it was it was great. It was just a place to relax and hang out. And now, of course, it's the place. with a very mixed crowd, which is, you know, the way everything has changed. You know, there's so many, the lines, the ghettoization of gay life in LA has broken down. And I think that's all for the better.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely the Abbey, and right next to the Abbey is the oldest gay bar in LA, which was the Motherlode, I think opened in 1974. So yeah, but
and I just want to shout out one more. They've got a pop-up. They're only on Instagram right now, but unfortunately, as of 2017, there are no lesbian bars in all of LA County. Absolutely giant 10 million person LA County, 4,000 square miles has 0 lesbian bars. So that's a problem that the people behind Finger Joint are looking to solve. So you can follow them online. They do pop-ups. They're trying to figure out exactly how they'll come into existence right now. But they think it's really important that there's a space for people who are lesbian as well to go out and have a bar that they can call their own.
Yeah, I remember when I was out there, you used to have to go to Long Beach to go to a lesbian bar. Like there wasn't anything around. And the Abbey was actually the first gay bar I've ever been to. So
yeah.
When I was
it's sad. The Palms had been around for about 48 years over in West Hollywood, but they closed as of 2013. And there was another one in the Valley from 2017. They were the last holdout.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah.
wow. Well, thank you both. Oh my goodness, this is so amazing for shedding light on some LA history and some much needed reminder that LA has a vibrant LGBTQ plus etc. history as well. Definitely check it out, and I believe we'll be posting the link to Lambda, the Lambda Legal Fund in here. And like you said, they're going to be matching all of the donations this month, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Which is awesome. So, and if you happen to be an LGBT person who runs into some much needed legal trouble, please reach out to them because there are resources that are needed and available, which is amazing. All right, well, say goodbye, everybody. I think
all of our hearts and thoughts this weekend with the All Black Lives Matter parade in Hollywood and West Hollywood.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and please be sure to follow us at Experience First, Facebook, Instagram. You can also reach me at CLA in a day on Instagram, SEELAINADAY. But right now we're trying to focus on Experience First and all the content they're putting out for Pride Month. So if you're only going to follow one from the stream, be sure to follow them.
But also follow Chris. So, all right, have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Happy Pride.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.